I first took the 400 micrograms of LSD at precisely 10:30 a.m. on a beautiful, clear, and sunny Saturday morning. While the tabs were settling in nicely under my tongue, I got out my 4-ACO DMT from the freezer and proceeded to measure out about 25 milligrams, or as close as I could get to it within reason. I turned on the Empire of the Sun's new album, and proceed to get out already weighed out 200 milligram dose of MDMA. I proceeded to mix the 4-ACO DMT with the finely crushed crystals, and set them both in a little pouch on my countertop. As I came up on the acid, I laid around on my couch listening to the music, and I decided it would be fun to go skateboard some hills around my apartment complex. I had done this before only on LSD and it was absolutely amazing. I put on both Empire of the Sun albums on my iPod, and headed out the door. The hills around me are very long, and mellow, and you can skate around for about 2 minutes before having to push it all. I proceeded to skate all over the place, and at certain times it's like my eyes would be opening wider, and a new shimmering, melting, or waving would start to take place. For me, LSD visuals seem to decrease the faster you are moving, and almost become crystallized and clear, and this state of mind was very surreal. Me, just chilling, cruising, on a beautiful day was just amazing. I stayed out there for about an hour, finally coming inside around 12 p.m. Once I came inside, and cooled down in front of a fan, I realized just how fried my brain really was. I could hardly see my iPod to change the songs, so instead I went and sat outside on my porch by myself with a nice glass of water. From here, I found myself ultimately appreciating the sounds of the city and woods surrounding my complex. The shimmering trees, the beauty of the birds flying up high in the sky, I was absolutely in love. My porch chairs are very comfy, and I found myself almost in a calm and meditative state. I decided then to take that state one step further, and I simply closed my eyes, relaxed every muscle in my body, and cleared my mind into a blank state. Wow! What a powerful experience. I had never really considered meditation before, but I focused on having no internal thoughts run through my head, no movement, just the sound of me being in nature, with the wind blowing my hair and the birds signing around me. I almost fell into somewhat of a pit of colors, of spiraling kaleidoscopic fractals dancing around me, comforting me in my state of consciousness. I was at peace with everything around me, and simply existing in the present only. When I opened my eyes, I felt this huge uplifting feeling wash over me, and all my vision turned into a deep shade of blue, then slowly to red, then back to normal, over the course of about a minute. I looked down at my phone in my pocket and I could not believe 15 minutes had passed already. I proceeded to try this meditation one more time, but it only lasted about 5 minutes, the time before I could not handle the silence of my mind. It was overpowering, overwhelming, I needed to think. I went back inside and laid down on my couch, and put on MGMT's Oracle Spectacular. As I lay there, I had all the classic waving, trippy visuals, but nothing too extreme or such that I was unable to handle it. Before I know it, it's 1 p.m., and it's time to take my remaining substances of choice. I take what I thought was a little piece of tissue, and pour of the powder mix of MDMA and 4-ACO DMT into it, and bulb it and proceed to try to swallow it. I clearly misjudged the amount of tissue I was trying to swallow, because it started to gag me and try to make me throw up. Duh, I needed to drink water to get it down. I drink some water and it goes down like a champ. At this point, I am thinking to myself, oh my god, what have I done? I sit down in one of my comfy chairs and continue to play MGMT. Not even the first song I put on has passed, when I get this strange feeling come over me. Huh, that was weird. I am thinking to myself, this is just a placebo, there is no way it will hit me that fast, considering how much water I drank from skating earlier. I go back outside to sit on my porch, and I am now getting these crazy visuals that I am unable to control. The wooded area I look over is becoming a giant locomotive train, chugging along and billowing smoke. I look up at the clouds in the sky and I see huge ships like what sailed in England in the 1600s. Mayflower after Mayflower, billowing, and rolling in without me even having to think about it. Some of the clouds turned into other creatures, all with a gate and everything. Giants, gods, and even apes were slowly moving across the sky, and if I looked away and looked back, they were still there in their exact same form. At this point I have no idea what is kicking in, what is not kicking in, what time it is, how long ago I took my substances, and what the hell this ride is going to be like. I get an overwhelming sense of appreciation for this planet Earth, and this world I am able to experience. I actually was mad at myself at one point, for allowing myself to experience such amazing, beautiful, and raw power, that so few will ever get to feel. I was selfish. By now, My visuals are so intense it is like I am in the most trippy video or video game you could ever imagine. I literally have fractal trees growing out of thin air, like a growing, blooming effect you would see on a time-lapse of springtime. Anything I looked at would start to bloom fractals, puff up like clouds, and my world was literally waving like a 10-foot sea. I could look down at the street of cars, and it was like they were on some kind of roller coaster of hills, even though it was flat. Around 40 minutes in, I begin to get this light, feathery feeling flow through me. My eyelids lifted up more, and everything started to become crystal clear. The wind, the trees, the birds, everything was frozen around me. I knew the wind was blowing. I could feel it on my face, yet anything I looked at was completely frozen. This energetic feeling grew inside of me, until I had to go back inside to contain myself. By now I put on the discography of Bass Nectar through my headphones, and I couldn't help myself but to start dancing a little bit. Slowly but surely, the feeling of being on top of the world flowed through me, and by the time 2 p.m. came around, I had become God himself. I figured I was peaked at this point, so I tried to clam myself down enough to crack a balloon of nitrous. I could hardly get it working. I was shaking all around, my brain was buzzing so much, and I held the balloon in my hand with nervousness. The music was flowing through my veins so hard, it was like a rocket ship for every song. The highs, the lows, every single instrument I could hear with the finest detail, and I hadn't even hit the balloon yet. I could truly appreciate every single instrument, and the combination of sounds was leaving me absolutely amazed. When I finally hit the balloon, I lost all thought processes. I was trying to do 5 breath-in and breath-outs into the balloon before I sat there, but at the count of 1 I had lost count already. I inhaled/exhaled what I thought was a couple more times until I was scared I was going to pass out due to lack of oxygen. What is crazy, is that I wasn't even propelled into the typical wah 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 of nitrous. I was propelled into bright yellow and red faces moving their mouths to the beat on my walls, to neon blue, green, and yellow lines of electricity flowing around my whole apartment. I was on top of the world, and I go outside and these visions carry over to the outside world. I come in and sit back down and realize those balloon effects were not going to go away, that this was my new state of mind. All I could say to myself was, oh my god. This is absolutely insane. Because it was so insane, that was all I could do for 20 minutes, was dance around in this electric world, with visuals I have never encountered before in my history of use. As this is going on, I keep peaking, higher, higher, and higher, until again at 2:30 I figured, this is the peak now, let's hit another balloon of nitrous. By this time I'm all sweaty, and it was hard to even be still enough to twist my cracker. Again, I hit it and was propelled even further than before. My walls were creatures that were vibrating, and dancing to the music with me. At some points I am literally laughing like a child. I feel so amazing, jumping up and down, clapping my hands together, all because I feel so on top of the world. I decide to find my rave gloves, the ones with the lights on the tips, and while I may not be very good at gloving, the swirls of colors I was making was absolutely incredible. My attention span with this didn't last very long though, as I decided to go outside and explore the world around me. At this point, I could hardly walk on my own 2 feet. I probably looked either really drunk or really high, but I didn't care at this point. I still have my headphones on, and I walk into a little path by my woods. Obviously, I had to touch every tree 2 or 3 times before I could move on to the next tree. Everything felt so good. My visuals by this point have become 2-dimensional, in the fact that I may be seeing a 3D rounded tree in front of me, but all I see is a 2D texture at some particular depth. That is how everything was in these woods, and how everything was from thereafter. Like different planes of textures that helped me perceive a 3D world. It was crazy. At this point I see a path that leads off the side of the trail, and proceed to follow it thinking it was some cool runner's trail. I was wrong. I ended up walking into some marsh and being covered in spider webs. Who cares, right? They felt pretty neat, and spiders need homes too. I walked back up and around the trail, marveling at prickly vines, different leaves, and bark on the trees. I sit down on a little bench and have an epiphany. I should go skate again. I jump up and, feeling light as a feather, proceed to sprint all the way back to my place without even a hesitation, and grab my board from inside. I'm still as messed up as ever, and I cannot describe how amazing it felt to glide down a hill feeling the best I have ever felt in my whole life. Skating around was a truly amazing experience, and I longed to have some sort of chairlift/escalator when I got to the bottom of the hills. Words cannot describe how I felt. It was like I was literally gliding through space, with all of these crazy visuals swirling all around me. Just me, having the time of my life. It was flawless. After a while though, I started to get thoughts in my head that all these people were staring at me. After all, I am the only one skating around when people are sitting out on their porches and sidewalks looking over me. I also start to think that everyone else that I see who is close to my age is tripping too. I must have looked messed up when I can hardly balance enough to get going on the board, but once I was going I was floating on air, and perfect. At the top of the hill I pass a dude who looks like he gets me. He clearly sees me chewing relentlessly on a pen cap, fumbling with my headphones falling out of my ears, and making these quick jerky movements. He gives a nod to me and I nod back and continue on my way, and I turn around and he is standing there talking to the side of a building. And pointing up at it like he is yelling at it. Clearly this guy is high too, so I proceed to skate down towards him. The beginning of this hill gets you going about 25 miles per hour, and he is right at the cusp of it. I skate by him and decide I need to talk to this guy, so I put my foot down and literally had no concept of momentum, and proceed to immediately yard sale it in the parking lot. I'm talking about cartwheels, head over heels, crash. All the while all of these amazing feelings and sensations are going through my brain. I was not fazed one bit, and he starts to run over going, "Are you okay, man?" I get up and walk towards him and immediately go, "Hey man, are you high?" Because there is clearly no one at the windows he is currently yelling at, so he must be tripping like me. He says, "No, I'm not." I say, "Are you sure?" "Yay, definitely not." I lean in close and whisper, "'Cause I am. Have a good one." And I put my headphones back in that had fallen out and walk a quarter mile down the hill to where my skateboard almost went into a sewer drain. I proceed to continue skating around, hardly even caring that I wiped out. So what? I feel on top of the world. I end up finding an overpass that heads into my apartment complex, and find a nice place to sit out and rest. I realize there was a homeless person that once lived under this bridge too, as I see trash, plastic forks, and even a little fire ring. I hereby call this base camp from now on, and I figure out that there were steps leading up to the bridge I was under. Walk up the steps, skate down to base camp, rest, repeat. It was an amazing plan. I still think everyone is high like me at this point, and I'm skating around and I see this guy who looks like a Civil War soldier walking down the street. Note I live in a very important Civil War town. He's clearly talking to himself. Hey, maybe this old man is tripping too. I skate by him and ask him how he's going, and he proceeds to mumble back, "Oh, I'm fine thanks," and kept on talking to himself. This was when I realized this guy actually is homeless, and is actually a bit crazy. I skate swiftly away back to base camp. After skating some more, one time I am resting at base camp and I look down at myself and realize my shorts are covered in blood. Upon further inspection, my shirt and my shorts were bloody, and I had scrapes that were bleeding on both elbows, both fronts and back sides of my hands, and one knee. Damn. How long have I been skating around looking like a bloody mess? How long has it been since I wrecked? Who knows? At this point I only do a couple more runs of my new hill I found and proceed to skate back to my apartment to take a shower and drink some water, because it was a hot day and I didn't want to overheat being this high on drugs. Around 4:30 p.m. I took an ice cold shower, and it felt incredible. The water droplets dipping off my face felt like they were falling into infinity. I could not tell what was really dripping and was not, and I literally could have stayed under the cold shower head for 45 minutes. I didn't want to stay there forever, so I eventually got out and dried off. Everything that I touched or was touching felt amazing, and for the next hour and a half I proceeded to lay around in comfy pajamas and listen to some house music. Between my bed and my couch, my visuals were slowly fading, but the sensations I was feeling were so relaxing and comforting. I literally could just lay there. I was so content with the world, my life, and my situation. I had not a care. I soon realized I was still bleeding and had got blood all over the place, and a quick sidetrack with a Tide stick stain remover took care of my problems. Around 7:30 p.m., after my vision had become simply crispy lines and maybe a little waves left over from the LSD, I proceed to turn on Netflix, Family Guy and Futurama. They both were making me laugh so hard, and that's when I realized that I had not eaten anything at all the whole day. I needed to force something down, even though I was not hungry. I reheated some leftover shepherd's pie, and it took me 45 minutes to force it down. From this point onward, I was crashing. I was pretty tired from the day's experience, tired from skating, and simply mentally exhausted as well. The night ends with me falling asleep backwards in my bed, still watching Netflix, and having the most bizarre dream where I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune, and it's my turn, and I proceed to say, I would like to buy a vowel. The letter green. It was so bizarre I actually woke up and couldn't believe my brain came up with that. I woke up in the morning sore from skating, but refreshed and rejuvenated mentally. Hands down, that was the best drug experience of my life, and I hope to remember it for years to come. While going solo might not be for everyone, for me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It was truly amazing, and thanks for reading.